So, in the summer of 2024, when I went to Bangladesh, something felt different. Everything seemed off. Maybe it was because I only had just turned 15, or maybe it was because everyone around my age suddenly seemed so serious, almost adult like. That trip made me realize how little I really knew about the country or the world around me, and especially my own country. And this is what brings me here today. Hi, my name is Liyana Zahir, and I'm a junior here at ACS. It all started after I landed in Dhaka. We were stuck in traffic, like really stuck. It was hot, the car was packed, and everyone was frustrated and sweaty. At first, I thought, okay, classic Dhaka traffic, but after an hour or two, I started to hear distant chanting and shouting. I turned to my dad and asked, what's going on? He looked out the window and said, it's the protest for the Coda movement. I blinked, what's Coda? He sat and replied, you won't get it, it's a long story. That moment stuck with me. Was it my fault for not knowing, or was it my friends for never talking about it? How was it that I, someone who's always online, who scores their life over on TikTok, didn't know something so important was going on in our country? That moment was the spark. It made me realize how disconnected many of us in Gen Z can be from real-world issues, especially in countries like Bangladesh and Nepal, where young people my age are standing up, leading movements, and fighting for change. So, because the essence of a changing world isn't just about trends or technology, it's also about the awareness and voices and the courage to use them. After I finally convinced my dad to share the news with me, he told me the whole story. He said, the quota system in Bangladesh gives 56% of government positions and jobs to special groups, like freedom fighters' children or people from Pacific districts and so on. At first, I fully didn't understand why it was such a big issue, but as he explained, I came to realize how unjust it is when you work and study and yet still don't have the chance because the system was meant for someone else. And I learned that this wasn't just some small protest. According to the Business Standard, over 1,000 students were injured across Bangladesh. Universities were shut down, and people across the countries, people my age, went on the streets and led protesters screaming for justice, screaming to be heard. And that's when I realized I have to stand up too. I realized that I can't just sit around anymore. So when I reached home, I sat down and started researching about it immediately. I had to make sure why and how and when it was happening before I spoke on it. So after doing my research, I naturally went to my friends who were living there at the time and were first-handedly experiencing it. They showed me raw, unfiltered clips of students being beaten, of police using violence, and of young people losing their lives for just demanding fairness. But one thing that really stood out to me is how passionate they were about this issue. Even with being in high school and dealing with academic pressure, they still managed their time to show support for their own country. They were so aware to the point where their message started to work. How, you may ask? They turned to the one tool they had, social media. They started off small. They posted with all of the students in their school and demanded each and one of them to share and call out injustice again and again with everyone, and to repost any videos that come across their feed so that it would reach people across the world, people like me, who wouldn't have known about it otherwise. Because I was living in Bosundar at the time, which is a residential area in Dhaka, protests weren't as crazy, but me and my friends wanted to contribute as much as we could. So on July 28th, we joined a local but a peaceful protest under the supervision of our parents, of course. And as I was watching the crowd and looking at my friends, at some point, they told me to hold their bags so that they could spray paint some stuff on the walls. But these weren't just emotional cliche quotes about injustice. It was about a student named Mustafa Rahman Mukto. He was a student at Khulna University and who was an activist and was shot dead while distributing food. So my friends decided to write a quote dedicated to him. The quote said, "Pani lagbe, karo pani lagbe," which means, do you need water? Does anyone need water in Bangla? Him offering help in a moment of chaos became a slogan for this movement. And it touched the many hearts of the people in Bangladesh, since these were the last words of his before he was shot dead in July 18th of 2024 by the Bangladeshi police. In that moment, something clicked in my head. These protests prove that age cannot be a deciding factor in creating an influence. One voice can mobilize thousands. One thought can kindle a revolution. And we're the generation to set revolutions not just in faraway lands, but in places where we live, learn, and dream. Now, others will comment, Gen Z protests are just simply social media trends. They don't really do anything. Or they're too emotional, too young to know how politics really works. But the thing is, awareness always comes before change. Over 70% of global social movements in the last 5 years, the Washington Post reported, began as social awareness campaigns. And it's the same thing in South Asia. The Bangladeshi quota system movement began on Facebook before it even became one of the biggest student-led movements. So yeah, it might start with a hashtag, but it won't end there. It will end with people on the streets, voice amplified, and systems changed. But what's even more powerful is that this movement didn't just stop at Bangladesh's borders. In Nepal, students also started to create similar protests like the people in Dhaka did. They saw how young people were standing up against unfair systems and decided to do the same. So this is my call to action to you. Don't wait until you're 18 to know what's happening around you. Learn, ask, question, speak. Because silent won't save us. Awareness will. Thank you.